Hey, 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 hey. Peace, power, greetings. Welcome back to the drop. We going, we at it, we active. Drop Nation. Alright, we're going right back in it. This is not part of 11, don't worry. But, you know, everything's an extension of another drop. So dope, man. A lot of great feedback on the 10-part series. Worlds Beyond the Poles, No Force on Flat Earth, Abizai. We got through a whole book, Abizai. We got through 5 whole chapters, man. Over 90 pages of Worlds Beyond the Poles. We got through crystals. We got through all kinds of stuff, man. So this is a little bit on Dr. August Peard. We read about him the whole time in Worlds Beyond the Pole. He is, you know what I'm saying, the, physicist, scientist, all that, you know what I'm saying, that's explorer, going, trying to stretch the boundaries. And we're going to learn a little bit about him. Just a little quick 9-minute joint just to kind of get us going. Pay attention to this Hennessy commercial, though, man. This is what got me going. This is a Hennessy commercial. This cat's about to play. And you're going to see all the visuals. You're going to see what they got, directly out of Worlds Beyond the Pole. And how this is a very serious deal in popular science back in the 30s and 40s. So when people just scoff at it now, understand this is major weight. The fact that you say, huh? You crazy. I mean, come on. 1800s, 1700s. Abizai, you're talking about the 1800s. You're talking about all kinds of stuff coming up. Real experimentation that was done. Real Antarctic trips. Admiral Byrd, explorers, Peard, that really got down with the get down. So, flat drop. This is Dean Otto presenting Dr. August Peard, Shape of the Earth. And let's just enjoy it, man. I don't even know what I'm going to call this, but let's just go, man, and surf the wave.
Here's where the world begins to mock us. The world knows. I can't believe that this commercial was made. The freaks saw this on TV
Hennessy
and had me watch it. This is where it gets really interesting. Now, this is new. This is not something I shared last time. But this is a Hennessy. I guess this is Scotch, or is it?
It's that yak, man.
Or what? I don't know. It's some kind of fancy liquor.
It's that yak, man.
That's all right. It's fancy liquor. I never got to the real fancy stuff. Right? All right. But this is their commercial. Are we ready to play that commercial? Let's play the commercial, and then we'll talk about it. I want y'all to watch this closely. This is a true event that happened in 1931. The physicist, the Belgian-Swiss physicist, Auguste Peard. This is a true historic event, but they didn't present it in this commercial completely accurate. But we'll deal with that in a second. But it's amazingly, once you realize what they're showing. Go ahead.
All right, pay attention. Boom. Right here. So he went up from Earth, right? So you think he's going to outer space, and he breaks through the waters above. He breaks through the waters above. Everything you see out there, these globular isolated bodies, is an illusion. Watch him break the waters above. Hennessy. Okay, is this play? Let's go. let's read it. In 1931, August Piccard becomes the first man to reach the stratosphere. So we just read that. That's what that whole 10-part series was dropping. 1931. This is before Admiral Byrd in 1947 found land, he said, and I quote, the size of North America beyond the ice. So if they keep going, they keep finding new worlds, just like they found your ass. Let's go.
So in 1931, the Belgian physicist, who was also a friend of Albert Einstein and worked with Albert Einstein from time to time. I mean, this is a very intelligent man, PhD in physics, an engineer. This man he built this craft, he put it in, he went up, he was the first man, so he's world record setter. Dr. Auguste Piccard, Star Trek, Jean-Luc Picard, named after him. Okay?
Star Trek.
First man to reach the stratosphere. The first man who went that high. Now notice in the commercial, the first couple of horizons they show you completely flat. Right? He did this on May 27th, 1931. He set a world record at 51,775 feet. Here's a picture. I took some stills of this. They showed us. What are they showing us here? They're showing us the basically flat horizon. Now I love how they change it, but it shows him going up, and it shows him breaking through the firmament into what? Water. They're mocking us.
More water.
They know the truth, and they're mocking us. Now here's some pictures. Auguste Piccard, PhD in physics. This is well-known historic figure. I mean, stamps of him. I mean, this is not some guy. I can't believe how I never heard of him. Here's him in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Says he was, he was born in 1884, died in 1962, Swiss-born Belgian physicist, notable for his exploration of both the upper stratosphere and the depths of the sea in ships of his own design. In 1930, he built a balloon to study cosmic rays. In 1932, he developed a new cabin designed for balloon flights. In the same year, he ascended to 17,008 meters, 55,800 feet, completed. Another one, he did it later on. He was born into a family of Swiss scholars. He worked with, like I said, he worked with Albert Einstein. Here's a picture of him with his assistant in the capsule that they went up in, and it had portholes, and this is a porthole.
Okay, so when he walks in the room and he's like, hey, the earth is flat, are you just going to laugh at him? He's going to show you his experimentation, his equipment, his decades of research, breaking the stratosphere. He's the only person to go that high. And he's the one that said once you get that high, everything looks isolated and globular. Even though we're on a flat plane, our light emanating from the other side. I don't care if it's New Mexico. I don't care what state you're looking at. These things start looking globular. These things start looking like isolated bodies. You stop seeing the connected land and water areas. So this whole drop that he kicked back in the 30s was telling you that nothing is isolated. Everything is connected. There is no illusion of seclusion once you get into, you know what I'm saying, the stratosphere. No matter what, you go straight to get up. You don't go up to get up. You don't have to. Everything's connected. You just keep going straight. You go up, you go into the water. These stars we see above us are light going through the medium of water. Sound, vibration going through the medium of water. Water's above, water's below. So the sound vibration frequency going through the medium of the waters above is forming these boom. And this is connected to these particular gaseous, little areas and these other connected areas that look like little balls of X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? So we're getting to the bottom and seeing what's going on. Is this play?
And then I found this. This is a Popular Science magazine from August 1931. He did this in May. So just a few months after his ascent to a world record height, there was an article in there, 10 miles high in an airtight balloon. Now, just so people could say that I didn't get this off the internet, I did a little research. So I went on eBay and searched for Popular Science Magazine, 1931, August edition. I found one. I paid $15 for this. It was 25 cents in 1931. Just to verify this fact, and I'm going to read this article to you. This is the testimony of a physicist, scientist, engineer, the first man to reach the stratosphere that height. His testimony of the shape of the earth. Can I read this to you? It's on page 23. This blew my mind. Getting this. Just to verify. Is that the same article? If I was in court, this would be Exhibit 1. Right? Says a huge yellow balloon soared skyward a few weeks ago from Augsburg, Germany. Instead of a basket, it trailed an airtight black and silver aluminum ball. Within, Professor Auguste Piccard, physicist, and Charles Kepfer aimed to explore the air 50,000 feet up. 17 hours later, after being given up for dead, they returned safely from an estimated height of more than 52,000 feet, almost 10 miles, shattering every aircraft altitude record. Oxygen tanks kept them alive while they made observations. Records of their instruments are now being checked and interpreted. First to rise safely into the upper layer of the Earth's stratosphere, they found air pressure at 10 miles altitude so low, 1/10 of that at sea level, that a man exposed to it would perish, much as a deep sea fish burst of its own internal pressure when it's brought to the Earth's surface. Piccard and his aide found cosmic rays, mysterious radiations from outer space. They thought, of course, far more powerful than the Earth's surface, and engaged their intensity. The explorers trapped samples of upper air, blue air, as Piccard reported it to appear in cylinders. Analysis may prove it exceptionally rich in ozone, the intense blue gas supposedly responsible for the heavy side layer or radio roof. Now listen to this. The story of their adventure surpasses fiction. During the ascent, the aluminum ball began to leak. They plugged it desperately with Vaseline and cotton waste, stopping the leak. In the first half hour, the balloon shot up 9 miles through portholes. The observers saw the Earth through copper-colored, then bluish haze. Here's what he said. It seemed a flat disk with upturned edge.
So this explorer, 1931, he goes up so high that the air, you know what I'm saying, he calls it blue air, you know, like a blue gaseous. I think he trapped something, he said in a container. I don't know what he said, something like that. But it was blue. And now you see this bluish haze, and in this haze, through this bluish haze, the only person to get this high. Now, if he's the only person to get this high in the stratosphere, what does that make NASA? And why don't they teach you this in school? You're going to see him go off like, I don't understand why I never heard of this. This is major. This is popular science. Why was this information suppressed? Because it predated NASA. NASA was the cover-up from this, after this. This is in the 30s. NASA comes around, in the 40s? Everything starts happening in the 40s, right? All this stuff's everything go down in the 40s, man. 40s is major for the hijack. 1940s and 30s. But this is right before they started suppressing this. So let's get it back just about a minute.
Here's what he said. It seemed a flat disk. Copper-colored, then bluish haze. Here's what he said. It seemed a flat disk with upturned edge.
With upturned edge.
Now this is 1931. Before NASA. Before they decided they were going to lie to us. Before they conspired worldwide to lie. Some people say that there are no scientists that are flat earthers. Well, guess what? He told you what he saw. What is this magazine? took an Illuminati commercial to make me look, who is this man? Just another picture of him. And just so you know, this is what I just read right here, where it says, it's seen a flat disc with upturned edge. The edge is the ice wall barrier all the way around.
And we know that now combining with the worlds beyond the pole. What barrier, right? You keep going, you keep going. So I want to jump right from that. I want to go back into our geo shifter. This got it all started with the no trees, right? I'm just doing some cleanup. Don't mind me. So he also followed it up with there is no oxygen on flat Earth. But before we get that, let's take a quick sidestep into Ezekiel 31. I know. Never know where I'm going, but we know where we end up. We're going to put all this together. I know this is a little small, but go ahead and pull it up. You know what I'm saying? Ezekiel 31. Let's talk about these trees. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, in the 1st day of the month, that the word of Heya came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar. All right, cedar, tree. The Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. So now we're comparing the Assyrian to this particular tree. So the Most High is comparing the Assyrian to a cedar in Lebanon. Now we know we got Lebanon, Pennsylvania. We got Lebanon out here. Let's not go crazy. With fair branches and with a shadowing shroud and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. The water made him great. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high, with her rivers running round about his plants, and set out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. So this tree had these roots, all right, where they went all the way down to the deep water. That's what I said, you know, how far down do these roots go? Imagine how big the trees are. No one's talking how far the roots go, and could that be related to the foundations that the earth sits on at all? But the deep set him up on high, with rivers running round about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long, because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth. So this tree was the greatest tree. All the fowls of heaven made their nest in his boughs, right? All right, so we're talking boughs, you know, just so we're clear. Boughs, tree. What is a bough? A branch of the tree. Branch of the tree, especially one of the larger or main branches. So let's talk about the main branches here. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his main branches were multiplied, and his branches became long, because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth. All the fowls of heaven made their nest in his main branches, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under the shadow dwelt all great nations. This is how large some of these trees were, that nations, like, you got to think, people lived in them. That they got like the legends of Asgard and all these other nations that lived in the higher trees. The higher up, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, the air does get thinner, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, you do have to be more divine, I guess. If you live higher, you have, you know, different air pressure up there than whatever the case is. But these trees had so much oxygen that who knows, you know, how can we compare, you know what I'm saying, the density and air levels now? I mean, we're going to get into no oxygen, you know, to GeoShifter, and he's going to say how these experiments where back then we're talking about pre-flood, you know what I'm saying, that our air content was somewhere around the oxygen level being in the 30% and higher. Now we're at about 20, 21. And you could do that same experiment with lab rats or whatever the case is, and you're going to see an amazing correlation between that and their stature, their health. They live 2-3 times longer with more oxygen. So these trees provided, you know what I'm saying, an ecosystem of rich oxygen that enabled all these stories that seem like fables and myths to be absolute reality. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his main branches were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth, and all the fowls made their nests in the main branches, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations. Everybody lived with this tree. This tree was everything. Trees were everything. Thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters. The cedars in the garden of God could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in his beauty. So nothing that he had in the garden matched the beauty of this tree in Lebanon. I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of God envied him. Therefore thus say Heya, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height, and he hath shot up his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in height. I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. Okay, so now we see actual substantiating evidence that these crystallized silicon trees, just like any crystal, can be hijacked. And you can put a negative intention on a crystal. You could put a positive intentions on these things. And they said they became Ashereth poles. And that's why we're reading the scriptures in Deuteronomy. I think it was 12:5, and it was 7:5 or 7:3, no, 12:3, Deuteronomy 7:5, I believe, and there was another one that we got, one in Zechariah, but they were all breaking down, these, you know what I'm saying, these type of, tree, Ashereth poles, excuse me, I'm going blank. So these Ashereth poles, these Ashereth poles, just like a Christmas tree. When you put up that Christmas tree, you put an intent on it. It's alive. It's wood. It's carbon. Whatever you want to case. It's alive. You can put an intent, and then what do? You start decking it with silver and gold, and then you make offerings underneath it and give presents too. And you are worshiping and putting it. An energy is now living in it. You have turned it into something else. You're worshiping Christos and Christ. And you don't understand yet that that's a different deity than the deity in your Torah, which is why when the Torah is brought up, something in you, and once you've been, into something, hijack, something in you turns against it. You don't know why you're turning against calling it the Old Testament. Who would call your laws old? Who would say that the laws of Mosheh are old? When you understand they're named after Moses. Why are they named after Moses? We're going to get that. We're going to read a little bit of the revelation of Moses. We're going to get into some of these texts. We're going to get some babies out. All right. So let's just get this last part here. Okay, so this tree was cut down. It says, to the end that none of all the trees by the waters exalt themselves for their height, neither shoot up their top among the thick boughs, neither their trees stand up in their height. All that drink water, for they are all delivered unto death. All delivered unto death. All of them, these trees. Not just one. To the nether parts of the earth, in the midst of the children of men, with them that go down to the pit. So these trees were judged with us because they were hijacked. They exalted themselves. After a time when we fell, our trees fell. Some remain, right? Some remain holy, whatever you want to call it. I don't even want to call it holy. It's after, word to Lex Will, that word is a new word, and it don't mean what we think it means. All this stuff is means it's conjuring up these spells, you know what I'm saying? Holy, all this stuff like that. That word is invented and put on you. That word HOLY is a spell. So when I say, you know, these trees were majestic like we were majestic. We exalted ourselves, you know what I'm saying? The trees fell with us. Some of these trees stayed hijack free, but yet, you know what I'm saying, they still had to be cut down. But that doesn't mean that their roots have been hijacked. That's why certain mountains are still important. But these mountains, in some of these cases, are nothing but broken trees. So we're still just talking about the root of the trees when we're talking about crying out into the mountains and going into certain vibrations that are not hijacked, and certain mountains or trees that are not hijacked. Thus saith Haya in verse 15. In that day, when we went down to the grave, I caused a mourning. I covered the deep for him, and I restrained the floods thereof, and the great waters were stayed. And I caused Lebanon to mourn for him, for the tree. And all the trees of the field fainted for him. So how important are your trees? You know what I'm saying? These people that are just into one concept of the flat earth or one concept of this, and they say, who cares about the trees? Why do a 10-part series on trees, kingdrop? Ezekiel 31:15. And I caused Lebanon to mourn for him, and all the trees of the field fainted for him. Because Haya has made a connection. When we're created here, as Adam, as these nations, we are connected to this. This is the same as us. The day you care about your trees is the day you come back to life. Even now, you still don't care. You say, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. You have no understanding of the oxygen content and how this connects you. But you's about to get some drop from GeoShifter. There is no oxygen on flat earth. Let's get it.
Hello my friends.
Hey.
Today I want to talk about our atmosphere and especially about oxygen. Oxygen is needed by our body to perform its functions like create energy, digest food, clean toxins, fuel the body's muscles, strengthen the body's immune system, and a big list of other things. Everyone knows how important oxygen is for humans and animals. So I went on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia tells me that oxygen was discovered by Carl Scheele in 1773 and Joseph Priestley in 1774. So we knew that we lived on a globe even before we discovered the stuff that we breathe, and we discovered it twice. Please don't ask me to explain that. Science tells me that the atmosphere of Earth is the layer of gases, commonly known as air, that surrounds the planet Earth and is retained by the powerful, godly force of gravity. Our atmosphere contains on average 78% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, 1% of argon, and a few other small amounts of various gases. I never understood that there is only 21% oxygen, while it's the stuff we breathe and the stuff we need. So I started to wonder what would happen if there was more or less oxygen. Well, it didn't take much research to figure out that if you remove too much oxygen, people just die. But it seems that if you add more oxygen, you get some amazing results. This article was posted in 2013. Big insects provide big answers about oxygen. Johan van den Broeks has raised dragonflies that were 15% larger than their normal size. Approximately 300 million years ago, creatures on Earth lived in oxygen-rich environments. These high oxygen levels peaked around 31% compared to 21% oxygen in our atmosphere today. According to the fossil record, this resulted in some pretty big bugs. A bit further in the article he says, I thought to myself, It's really hard to interpret any of this, because we don't have an understanding of how oxygen levels affect anything today. So, how are we supposed to understand what's going on in the fossil record if we don't understand what's going on now? To answer this question, Van den Broeks began rearing alligator eggs in varied concentrations of oxygen and analyzing the development of their embryos. The changes he saw in modern alligators correlated with those in the fossil record. Unfortunately, alligators take 17 years to fully mature, making them less than ideal for laboratory work. Van den Broeks began rearing insects in 3 different environments, imitating various oxygen concentrations throughout time. A 12% oxygen atmosphere, today's 21%, and the oxygen saturated 31%. The dragonflies responded to the high oxygen levels in kind, swelling to 15% larger than those reared in normal oxygen levels. In low oxygen, the dragonflies ended up 20% smaller than today's typical size. They say that oxygen is toxic at higher levels over time. It affects the central nervous system, the lungs, and the eyes. But this is a rare condition, seen mostly in deep-sea divers, and I don't really know a lot about it in terms of exposure times and concentrations. I would say that the big disadvantage is that it makes things burn much faster. Carbon dioxide is a well-documented limiting factor in the growth of plants in laboratories, and since the concentration of nitrogen in the atmosphere has remained almost constant, the higher the level of oxygen there is, consequently, the lower the level of carbon dioxide. Director of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas, Dr. Carl Bach, has invented and patented a hyperbaric biosphere chamber to test biblical claims regarding pre-flood atmosphere and magnetic conditions based on Genesis. Genesis states that life on earth was created perfect and designed to live forever. It also states that after the fall of man, all elements of which everything is made were cursed. Genesis then records a gradual degeneration of the whole of creation until the flood of Noah, followed by an increasing rate of degeneration as time progressed. Anyway, in this chamber he made, the oxygen level is between 22 and 30%. Experiments carried out in this pre-flood atmospheric chamber have produced amazing evidence supporting the biblical record of the pre-flood world.
Again, it keeps going back to biblical records. That's why we keep going back to biblical people. That's why we keep going back to Columbus's own records in the Biblioteca de Colombina in Sevilla, Spain, saying, I came to America to seize the holy city, Jerusalem, and Mount Zion. Then you say, oh, okay. So who was here fighting for it? Columbus. He said he took it over in 1501. Well, we know who was fighting here. We know the Maya was fighting. We know the Aztecs were fighting. We know treaties were done against these people. We know their customs are Hebraic customs. Abraham customs. This is not a myth. It's right here underneath your feet. You've been looking in the wrong place, on the wrong side of the world. And it keeps coming back to you, Negro.
Some examples include extended lifespan of fruit flies up to 3 generations, accelerated growth of piranha fish from 2-inch to 16-inch over a 2.5-year period, and molecular change of venom in copperhead snakes to a non-toxic state. These pictures show how the structure of the venom changed in only 4 weeks.
Look at the structure of the venom of the snake in 4 weeks with more oxygen. With more oxygen.
It's the venom of the same snake. It has been estimated by researchers at the University of Illinois that the atmospheric pressure in the earliest beginnings of life on Earth could have been as much as 29.4 pounds per square inch, That's twice the current sea level pressure. Oxygen content would have been about 30% instead of the 21%. An open wound could heal overnight under these conditions.
X-Men.
This would support human life lasting several hundred years. A related post sent to a discussion list recounts the following unconfirmed information about the effects noted by aquanauts living underwater for periods of 30 days or greater. CGT Enterprises 1 wrote, "Hi everyone. A friend of mine who worked for the NSA related an experiment that was conducted by NASA. 3 scientists lived on the floor of the ocean for about 1 to 3 months in a biosphere. When they left, they were all middle-aged with graying hair and low libidos. When they returned, their hair was clear of gray, their wrinkles had started to disappear, and their sex drive was so increased that their wives complained to NASA about it. It turns out that certain glands and organs were reactivated."
Reactivate. What do I tell you? Activate. What does hey I tell you? Wake up. Turn to Zion. You ain't no slave. You ain't no homeborn slave, Israel. You lived in a time where you had oxygen. It was cut down when you were cut down. You've been getting cut down more and more ever since. There's a confederacy that has been made against you, and you are the center of all this controversy, of all this so-called conspiracy. The more people get into the so-called conspiracy, the more they're just going to find you under it all. You're not going to go back, oh, you know, our great America's been hijacked. Let's make America great again. To what? What's Trump going back to when he says make America great again? Was it not great before Trump got here? Is that not what we're reading in books by, Dan Stannard, American Holocaust, of what they saw, that these Spaniards literally thought they were in a dream? They thought they were in Eden, Atlantis. They knew where they were. What do you mean make America great again? How far you want to go back? To Atlantis? Before hijack of Atlantis? Paradise? Before the Ashereth pole? No oxygen on flat earth. What are you breathing?
One in particular was the gland that lies over the top of the heart. Blood tests showed unusual hormones. Hormones that are normally associated with the growth of young children. And now I want to show you a short clip of the guys that made the Biosphere Chamber. Their YouTube channel is Creation Evidence Museum. They have some interesting things to say. Let's watch it.
That if you increase the atmospheric oxygen to simulate what we had before Noah's flood, the entire blood plasma of the whole organism, the whole body, is saturated with oxygen. The entire blood plasma.
Now we're talking plasma. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting scientific. So it's not so much blood, it's plasma. And this plasma now sounds really Tesla-like. Wasn't he doing something with plasma? So when you think plasma, think Tesla, free energy, think X-Men. Remember, heals, wounds are healing overnight. These aquanauts, went down there for 1 to 3 months, middle-aged, and they came back. Damn near all the wrinkles were gone, sex drive going crazy, everybody going buck wild. Let's get that back a little bit with the plasma. Let's focus.
Noah's flood. The entire blood plasma of the whole organism, the whole body, is saturated with oxygen. The entire blood plasma. That solves major, major problems. For instance, you and I genetically, during gestation, during the 9 months of gestation, you and I genetically produced 2 200 billion brain cells. 200 billion. But we ended up with 100 billion. And we're doing pretty well with 100 billion. We can get to space and back pretty well, and we can learn to count, and we can do some good science, and we can do all...
Yeah, we know everybody's not the same, and all of our molecular structures and plasmas are not identical. That's what they're not telling you when they say you and I. They're talking about them. Things are different when they start putting the melanin. And that's why when you research melanin and see how important it is, and why the market is so up on these people buying melanin pills and all this kind of stuff, but which you naturally have rich of. Now you add the high oxygen levels to this melanin. Okay, so he said, well, we had 200 million or billion, you know what I'm saying, brain cells and all that, and then we lost half of them. Imagine if you didn't lose half of them. Why would that make a difference?
Almost, we can fly artificially.
Whoa.
Doing pretty well with 100 billion.
We could fly. Okay.
But what happened to the other 100 billion? Texas A&M discovered, others had published on it as well, that a brain cell dies in 6 to 10 minutes of oxygen deprivation. So in today's atmosphere, today's context, the blood plasma is not saturated with oxygen. The hemoglobin picks up 4 oxygen molecules, that's all it can take. But the blood plasma is not saturated with oxygen. So here we are, here's this mother gestating her child, laboring to get enough oxygen for herself, transferring as much oxygen as possible to that kid, but can't give him enough. So during the 3rd trimester, just before the child's born, the last third before the child's born, there's a tremendous proliferation of brain cells. Millions of new brain cells every day. Millions, but almost all of them die. Why? Can't get enough oxygen. The rest of the body's taking it all, and the brain cells already there. The brain uses over 20% of the oxygen that we take in. So the brain cells already there are taking all the oxygen, so the new ones can't get any. So we end up with 100 billion brain cells. What if we, and we're not going to run human experiments or primate experiments in the biosphere, but what if we had 100 billion brain cells? Would we be twice as smart as we are today?
Uh-oh.
No, a lot more, because every additional brain cell, every brain cell has from 10 to 50,000 neuron connections to other brain cells. So the difference between 50,000, between 100 million and 100 billion and 200 billion brain cells is light years.
For some time, medical hyperbaric chambers have been used to fasten healing of skin injuries and various other diseases. While many hospitals contain a chamber like this one, professional sports teams and celebrities have increasingly been experimenting with sleeping in enhanced oxygen and high pressure. Evidence is mounting that these chambers can reduce infection, heal diseases, decrease stress, and enhance stamina.
Well, my name is Doug Jones. I'm a science doctor at the University of Reading, and I run a clinic which deals with sports injuries for elite athletes and normal ordinary folks. And we do have a speciality of leg ulcers. We're very fortunate that we have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber which we have as a facility here, which makes us the #1 treatment centre for leg ulcers in Europe. The science behind it is basically, normally the oxygen is carried by hemoglobin, and the maximum amount of oxygen is 100%. Whereas what this does, under two atmospheres of pressure, the hemoglobin is bypassed and the oxygen is carried and dissolved in the plasma. And that means you get up to 10 times the amount of oxygen reaching all parts of your body. So you've got 1,000% oxygen. And oxygen is life, oxygen is healing. So it can do nothing else but help.
So this gives you 10 times the oxygen. And again, remember, we had twice the brain cells. And they didn't die, the connectivity would be crazy. We would be light years. Where are we going? What happens when our trees are returned? What happens when our paradise is finally restored? What happens when the people at the bottom are finally placed back in their place? Everybody sees that we've fallen. Now the wise are like, oh shit, I need to get behind this order. Once I read about it, once I see it, once I see what the energy is about to be, there's only order. Chaos is no more. These things increase your oxygen. It increases your capacity to do everything. Everything. Everything.
Well, here at the clinic, our speciality is leg ulcers. We also help a number of elite athletes with things like soft tissue injuries and fractures, hairline fractures, that kind of thing, and recovering from surgeries, whereas we can actually get the recovery time to speed up to at least 70% quicker than you would do under normal circumstances.
70%.
If anybody else with an injury, soft tissue injury, non-union bony fractures, or hairline fractures, or any other sporting injury, we can assure you that we can speed up your recovery quite considerably.
Wow. He seemed pretty confident to me.
Atmospheric oxygen levels are dropping faster than atmospheric carbon levels are rising. Forget rising temperatures and bigger storms. This is the big problem that neither side of the mainstream debate over environmental destruction is talking about. Peter Tatchell reported for The Guardian back in 2008. The rising carbon dioxide emission is big news. It is prompting action to reverse global warming. But little or no attention is being paid to the long-term fall in oxygen concentrations and its knock-on effects. The effects of long-term oxygen deprivation on the brain are known, and some sound reminiscent of the general rise of stupidity in the industrialized world. Let me show you the effects of having less oxygen.
We'll go ahead and start the demonstration here.
Okay, we're recording ready to go?
Yes, sir, we are recording ready to go.
Okay, you can go ahead. Sit that in your lap and just let your hoses hang off to the side there. We're going to drop the mask on the right-hand side of your face, and then when you need to recover, you swing it back up to your face, okay?
Since the regulator is on, it may be delivering pressure.
So in the Most High, hey, it says, I'm going to put a spirit of stupor over you. I'm going to make you stupider. Here's what he means. Now look how confused he is. He was just killing it. Now he can't find it at all. He can't find the shape to the piece to the shape. He can't match it. You walking around like you can't match it. You can't get it together. You can't think your way through this. You're like, how did I not know that this mountain was a tree? How could I be that stupid? How could I not know I was looking at piles of dirt and not, you know, some natural thing, but I'm just looking at piles of dirt and quarry the whole time. So this is spirits of stupor. All you got to do is take your oxygen away, your life away, your breath away. Heya is your breath. When you disconnect from that, he disconnects you from oxygen. Man, you can't figure it out for nothing, man. He's lost in the sauce. He's looking like you right now. He's looking like the Negro. Don't know what to do. 1 minute. Black Lives Matter. This is Black Lives Matter right here. Who's leading our communities? Who cares? What's the solution for black people? I don't know. What's black? I don't know. What country you come from? You don't know. Where you from, Negro? Africa? This is what they did to us. What are they chemtrailing? What are they spraying in the air?
Folks, that was 1 minute and 33 seconds.
Destroy more oxygen?
Not long, is it?
They're still cutting down trees. They're still cutting down trees. This ain't stopped. They're still cutting down so-called forests.
How'd you get your mask off? You put it on there. Okay, do you remember that? Yeah. All right. Go ahead and have a tour of it.
Okay, be ready to start on now.
So, I don't know what you think about all of this, but I think we should do some more research on oxygen and maybe the atmosphere and how it used to be, how it's changing. And not only look at the carbon dioxide and not only look at global warming, but look at everything. What do you all think? Let me know.
Yay.
Are you wondering how we can get more oxygen in our atmosphere? It's very simple. In school, they teach you that plants breathe carbon dioxide and give off oxygen as a waste, and that animals and humans breathe oxygen and give off carbon dioxide as a waste. This is true, but they never tell you that plants need oxygen to survive. If you place a plant in an atmosphere without oxygen, it doesn't matter what you do, it will die anyway. Plants take in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide the same way that we do. The difference is that during the day, plants also perform photosynthesis, which turns the carbon dioxide into oxygen. A healthy plant will give off a lot more oxygen than it consumes and consume a lot more carbon dioxide than it gives off. On average, one tree produces nearly 260 pounds of oxygen each year. 2 major trees can provide enough oxygen for a family of 4. Do I need to say more? Plant a tree in your garden. No one can stop you. And instead of taking 20 supplements a day, maybe take a few plants in your living room. There are many studies that prove that it's healthy to have plants inside of your house. Maybe that's how we can fix the atmosphere. If we increase the amount of plants and trees, I think the oxygen level and the pressure will increase. But who knows? I'm just a stupid flat earther. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Right.
And also thank you to everyone that signed up to FE.
Alright, so love to Geo Shifter, man. You know what I'm saying? He has his own joints. Subscribe if you have not. Great perspective. Alright, so we're going to get into it. Man. Love to. This is a wonderful drop right here, man. To understand the sprite, spirit, demonology connection. So gotta love it. These people crazy. These people literally have taken it to a whole nother level. I don't got time right now to, but these people are breatharianisms. These people breathe for life. They I don't want to call them crazy because, anyway, but they're taking in the prana, the energy of the atmosphere, and that's all they need. So they don't eat, they don't drink, they just breathe. And I mean, is it crazy? You be the judge. You look at it, man, if you want to. You know what I'm saying? Great time lapses. Much love to Kazar, something like that. Flat drop, you know what I'm saying? Everybody kicking it. You know, I always like to put a little survival in there, so we're going to kick some survival drop right quick, so we can be, you know, wilderness ready. Then maybe we'll build a house at the end of this thing, do a nice little dismount, build a house in the woods, in the backwoods. All right, so, you know, check out Dave Canterbury. This is a little bit on that black cohosh, and then we'll get into the revelation of Moshe.
All right, so real quick on the front end of this Materia Medica video, I thought I'd just throw a quick herbal on here for you, and this is an infusion of jewelweed. So I've came over here to an area where I have lots of jewelweed, and I have filled this jar up, stuffed it as tight as I could get it with masticated or macerated jewelweed, which I've just tore up and shoved down in the jar, and then filled it with water. Now I'm going to leave it sit in the sun for a couple, 3 hours today to infuse that herb into the water. And that's going to make an anti-inflammatory liquid that I'm going to strain off into a spray bottle for my wife, who got a whole bunch of bites this weekend out here in the woods at a basic class, and they're itching her pretty bad. They're all small seed tick bites, and she's on some antibiotics for it right now, but she's still got a lot of itch. So we're going to use this anti-inflammatory and antihistamine spray to help alleviate some of that itch for her this evening. Morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. And the plant we're going to discuss this morning in our Materia Medica series is the black cohosh. We're not going to dig the plant up today, although the root is what you really want to use on this plant. But the fact that it's considered an over-harvested plant in the U.S., I don't want to dig it up because, again, I don't need it right now. And there are probably 10 or 15 of them right here in this bottom area. So to tell you geographically or where they would grow or the type of environment, we're in a dense, wet, hardwood area of my property. We're in a low area between two ridge lines. There is a stream not very far from here. So they're on low, moist ground. Some of them are growing in the shade. Some of them are growing more in the sun. I think dappled sunlight would be what you would consider an area to look for this plant. Now, black cohosh is a very important plant as far as feminine health goes. So if you are a woman or you have your girlfriend with you or your daughter or something like that and you are in an emergency scenario, and again, remember, that's what we're talking about here, is what can we harvest and use immediately for the short term. We're not talking about clinicals and long term and all those types of things. We're talking about grab it and go. Black cohosh is considered a very good plant for PMS, for the symptoms of PMS, and for things like cramps, heavy bleeding, and things that bother women during their cycle. The black cohosh root made it.
All right, this is for my sisters, all right? A lot of times we just building houses and making bow and arrows, but, you know, this is for my sisters, you know what I'm saying? It's for Chef Candy and them, you know what I mean? I love to y'all.
To a decoction and drank as a tea is very good to help alleviate those symptoms. So I want to show you what that black cohosh looks like, but I don't want to harvest it again because it's considered a plant that's over-harvested. This is the only area I know of that it grows really prevalently on my property. It's an area about a half an acre where there's quite a few plants in a low bottom area. So I'm not going to harvest it right now because I'm conserving this resource for later use on my homestead. But this plant can very easily be used on the fly if you find it as well. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys an up-close look at this plant as best I can. And there's several of these out here. And try to stay out of the view of the camera, not putting shadows on it. It's got a fairly long leaf as it gets to be a larger plant, but it's forked and it's jagged. And there's one on the end and then two behind that. And it branches off, and the same thing, you got 1, 2, and 2. This one's just split in half. 1, 2, and then there's only one on this side. Now, down toward the bottom of this, it gets to be more tree-like, and it has a central stem. I'm going to show you that because that's an important thing to look at when you're identifying this plant. So let's get over the separates here. You've got to stick in here. We're going to have to get out of the way. Okay, so now what you can see is you've got a central trunk, if you will, and it's got three branches coming off of it here where it's split. That is very typical of this cohosh plant. Very typical for it to look like that. So if you're trying to identify cohosh, look for that central trunk, almost like a small tree, and then the branches coming away from it like that, out of the center, splitting out. Now here's a look at another one that's kind of in a more open area for you to see, and you can see again, it's got that central trunk right here, and it splits off into three separate limbs, if you will, that come out from that, with the same tooth leaf pattern of one and then two. Okay, folks, well, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me today for this quick, short video on black cohosh. Again, the reason we're not going to harvest and prepare something with this plant is A, I'm not a woman, so I don't need this plant. But B, the fact of the matter is this plant is over-harvested greatly within the U.S., and I want to replenish and grow the resource that I have, so I'm not going to harvest it unless I absolutely need it. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.
Check them out, man. Dave Canterbury, Wilderness Outfitters. Wilderness Outfitters. Let's go right into it. Alright, this is out of the Journal of Royal Asiatic Society of Great Britain and Ireland. They call this the Gedulath Mosheh, the Revelation of Moses. I'll leave the link. We're gonna I don't have it up in the library yet, but I'll put it up in the drop library. Word to everybody. Alright. Let's read it. The Revelation of Moses. We're gonna get into the firmament. Y'all wanna go climb the firmament with me? I said, do you want to ride this frequency with me? I said, do you want to climb the firmament with me? Let's go. The Revelation of Moses, heaven, hell, paradise. Gedulath Mosheh. All right, so this particular one's coming out of Amsterdam, 1854. They have all the sources and sites and all this kind of stuff. They say that this was actually some of the foundation text of the pre-Christian age, right? This is the pre-Christian hijack age. All right. So get it from right here. All these Christian revelations and of the others, at any rate, the last two are based directly upon the Hebrew visions. The last two, right? So they got the Muhammad, Christian. The last two are based directly on Hebrew visions and a fact which has hitherto not been noticed. I reserve for a book which I am writing the further discussions of these points and the study of the international connection between these apocalyptic visions. So these are all these texts that they're getting, coming out. Of course, you got to research and find these things. It would be bold to speculate on relative age of each of the visions which I publish here. They all go back to the pre-Christian age, as is shown by the existence of those Christian versions, almost verbally identical with the Hebrew. So these things are going back to the Hebrew. Oh. All right, who was writing in Hebrew? And that's what gets me, man, when my brothers are so brilliant, but then they just completely act like they don't understand a hijack when they see one. They say, oh, man, you know what I'm saying? The Bible's a white man book, the white man book. But then when you go back to the Paleo and the Hebrew, so who wrote that? The white man? When you go back to the scrolls and you see your Los Lunas, tablets and things like that going back 1000 BC in stone with the commandments on them in the Paleo. In New Mexico, going back over 1000 BC. so-called BC, before hijack, after hijack. All right, you gotta know you want to know your enemy. Know your enemy. Was your enemy over here writing in Paleo Hebrew in 1000 BC? So who was? Who's Columbus talking about when he said, "I'm going there to America to seize Jerusalem, the holy city, and Mount Zion"? He's talking about Peru. He's talking about Mexico. Mexica. Research the Mexica languages of Peru. Research all this, man. You have to open these books. Find this stuff that's not being presented for you. Most likely, it's more hijack free because you have to dig it up. It's been buried for a reason. All right, let's go. Before I go crazy. All right, number 1. As the apple tree among the trees of the woods, so is my beloved among the sons. Song of Psalms. This applies to Moses, upon whom be peace, in that hour when God said unto him, "Go and bring out the children of Israel from Egypt, for I have heard their groaning, and I remembered the covenant and the oath I swore to Abraham, my servant." Moses said, "O Lord of the universe, who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt?" God says, "Thou hast humbled thyself in saying, Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh? But I will honor thee, as it is said, He that is of lowly spirit shall obtain honor, and I will give the whole of Egypt into thy hand, and I will bring thee up even near to my throne of glory, and I will show thee the angels of the heavens." So the Most High is like, yo, I'm about to bring you above the firmament. Do you want to climb the firmament with me? He says, I will bring you up near to my throne. Now, I have a question for those who are on a ball spinning. Which way is up? It's an honest question. If you're on a ball spinning, like they told you in grade school, grammar school, glamour school, grammar school, spell school, charm school, they said you're on a ball spinning of water, right? So when the Most High says, I will bring thee up even near to my throne of glory, he's talking about, I will show the angels. So he's talking about bringing him physically up. Which way is up on a ball? He's spinning at 1,100 miles. Moses right now is supposed to be spinning at 1,100 miles per hour, according to you and your Copernican theory, based on the theory of gravity. The force of gravity, right? The magical force you have to believe in. So you do believe in something. You believe in a force. Which way is up? On a ball spinning at 1,100 miles per hour. On a wobble. Can't leave out the wobble. Wobbly, wobbly, wobbly. Alright, so come on. Clearly we are on a stationary, fixed, firm, immovable plane. So up is the same up for everybody. So we're going up. We're all going to see the glory of the Most High together, because we're all going to be able to look up together, not in all directions on a ball. And I will show thee the angels of the heaven. Thereunto God commanded Metatron. All right, we don't hear a lot about Metatron, so you have to dig up Metatron. The angel of his presence of the face, and said unto him, Go and bring Moses with harps and pipes and drums and dances with joy and songs and praises. Whoa, he said, man, we about to go in. They bringing all, he said, bring it all out for Moses, man. Bring it all out for Moses. Metatron. Now, who's Metatron? The angel of his presence, of the face. Interesting. Who's Metatron? Let's go. And Metatron answered. Make sure we're good. Okay. All right. And Metatron answered and said, O Lord of the universe, Moses is not able to come up and see the angels for thee, for there are angels who are of fire, and he is only flesh and blood. He's not going to survive, man. He can't survive up here. God said, go and change his flesh body into fire, and Metatron went to Moses. All right. Give him a fire body. When Moses beheld Metatron, he trembled with fear and said to him, who art thou? And he said, I am Enoch, son of Jared, thy father's father. Whoa. Maybe I'm late to the party, but did you know that Metatron was Enoch, Moses' granddad? His father's father? Y'all help me, because, maybe I'm just late to the party. When Moses beheld Metatron, he trembled with fear and said, who art thou? And he answered, I am Enoch, son of Jared, and thy father's father. The Almighty hath sent me to bring thee up to his throne of glory. Up, which way is up? Moses said, I am only flesh and blood and cannot look upon the angels. And Metatron changed Moses' tongue into a tongue of fire, and his eyes he made like the wheels of the heavenly chariot, and his power like unto that of the angels, and his tongue like a flame, and brought him up to heaven. Now look at the escort he got. Look at the escort. You thought Drake has an escort when he goes and performs in Philadelphia? This was Moses' escort to see Heya. 15,000 angels were on the right hand. 15,000 angels on the left hand. That's 30,000. That's a entourage. That's how you pull up. Do you understand what we're dealing with? Do you overstand it? We're about to go over the firmament. 15,000 angels on the right. 15,000 angels on the left. Metatron and Moses in the middle. And in this way was Moses carried up to heaven. All right. Now let's get into the heavens. How high can we go? All right. The first heaven to which Moses ascended corresponds to the first day of the week. Wait a minute. The first heaven to which Moses ascended corresponds to the first day of the week. What's the first day of the week? Sunday. So the sun, you can say, is in the first heaven. So they worship the sun on Sunday because it corresponds to the first heaven. And they're worshiping their heavens. So they worship the sun on Sunday, the first day of the week. The first heaven. This heaven was full of windows. Wait, let me go back. The first heaven to which Moses ascended corresponds to the first day of the week. So the first heaven, you got to think about this. So every day of the week we go up corresponds to a heaven. Each day of the week corresponds to a higher heaven. Did we ever put this together before? So let's surf the wave. All right. The first heaven to which Moses ascended corresponds to the first day of the week. There he saw the waters standing in lines. This heaven was full of windows, and at each window stood an angel. And Moses asked Metatron, or Enoch, what are these windows? And Metatron answered, these windows are the window of prayer, the window of request, the window of supplication, the window of crying, tears, the window of joy, the window of satiation, the window of famine, the window of poverty, the window of riches, the window of war, window of peace, window of pregnancy, window of birth, window of treasures, of rain, of dew, of sin, of repentance, the window of smallness, of greatness, the window of death, the window of life, the window of disease among men. So this is all bad. And this is all in the first heaven. That's why we say we have to go above that. That's the underworld. That's the first heaven. That's underneath the firmament. There's a division that's stuck here with us. So this first heaven that people are worshiping, these so-called planets, this energy, Saturn and Jupiter, all this stuff that the heathen have been worshiping, they worship the first heaven on a Sunday, the first day of the week. All right. Window of, all right. Greatness, death, life, disease among men, disease among animals. Then there's the window of healing, the window of sickness, the window of health. And Moses saw great things past finding out, yea, marvelous things without number. Moses now ascended to the second heaven. Okay, we're moving on up, which corresponds to the second day of the week. So now we're on Monday. There he saw the angel whose name is X. His length is 300 parasangs, and 50 myriads of angels stand before him. They are of fire and water, and their faces are towards the Shekinah above. And all sing him, saying, Great is the land and highly to be praised. Shekinah, I looked that up earlier. It's just the Shekinah, biblical Hebrew. Shekinah is the English transliteration of Hebrew now, meaning dwelling or settling. Denotes dwelling or settling of the divine presence of Heya. All right, so we're talking about the dwelling of Heya. All right, so, and their faces are towards the divine above them. You know what I'm saying? The dwelling of Heya above them, Shekinah. And all sing him, saying, Great is the Lord and highly to be praised. And Moses asked Metatron and said, Who are those? He asked. These are the angels who are placed over the clouds, the winds, rains, and they go and fulfill the will of the Creator and return to their place and praise the Almighty. And Moses asked, Why have they their faces turned towards the Shekinah, the dwelling of Heya? And Metatron answered, From that day when Heya created them until today, they have not been moved from their position. So they've been praising since they were created, only to just look up and praise. All right? And you can't keep your commandments. Moses went up to the third heaven. All right, we're on number 3, which of course corresponds to the third day of the week. So now we're on a Tuesday. So Tuesday, if you worship on Tuesday, you're worshiping on the third heaven. Okay. There he saw an angel whose name is X. His length is journey of 500. His length is the journey of 500 years. His length of this angel named X is 500 years. Man, you know, you figure it out. He has 70,000 heads, and in each head, 70,000 mouths. In each mouth, 70,000 tongues, and each tongue, 70,000 dictions. Before him stand 70,000 myriads of angels, all of white fire. They all praise and sing to God and say, Thine, O Lord, is the greatness and power. Moses asked Metatron, Who are these, and what is their name? And he answered, Their name is Erelim. Erelim's on the third heaven. They are placed over the grass, herbs, and over the trees, and over the fruit, and over the corn. All right? Remember, corn's indigenous to the Western Hemisphere. And they all go and fulfill the will of the Creator and return to the places. Moses went up to the fourth heaven, and there he saw the temple built. Now we're on a Wednesday. The columns of red fire, the sides of green fire, the thresholds of white fire, the hooks and the planks of blazing fire, the portals and the carbuncle of the halls and sparkling gems. And he saw angels going therein, praising and saying, As King David. So these angels on the fourth heaven are saying, As King David, upon whom may peace rest, said, Bless the Lord, ye angels of his, ye mighty in strength that fulfill his word. All right, or they have that in parentheses. So I don't want to put words in the angels' mouths, but it says, As King David, upon whom may peace rest, said. So maybe they're just injecting that. So, you tell me. But what I know they said, according to this in parentheses, is, Bless the Lord, ye angels of his, ye mighty in strength that fulfill his word. All right, so that's interesting. Moses asked Metatron and said, Who are these angels? And Metatron answered, These are the angels who are placed over the earth and over the sun and over the moon and over the stars and over the planets and over the spheres and over and ever sing they hymns unto him. And he saw, and he saw 2 big stars, each of them as big as the whole earth. The name of the one is Noga, and the name of the other is Medim, and standing above the sun, and other above the moon. Moses asked Metatron, why do these stand above those others? And he said, the one stands above the sun in summer in order to cool the world from the heat of the sun, and that is the star Noga, whilst the others stand near the moon in order to warm the world from the cold of the moon, and this is the star Madim. Again, you can research the moonlight experiments. There's somebody named Ashley Webster who did a great one. A lot of people are doing independent experiments on the moonlight versus the sunlight. They have absolute opposite properties. Again, if the moon's reflecting the sun's light, like they told you, because you're just a ball spinning, then the sun and the moon would still have the same properties of light. Maybe there'll be less of the light because of the reflection, but there's nothing that would change the property of the light. The sun and moon have opposite properties. They're completely different lights, completely. When the moon hits something, it cools it. So you can put something out in the moonlight and then put something out in the moon shade, put it, shade it from the moonlight, and it will be much cooler in the moonlight because of the moon property. It cools the surface while the sun's property heats the surface. So that lets you know that these are 2 different luminaries. The moon has its own light and its own property. So you're not on a ball spinning with the sun reflecting off the moon. No, the moon is a luminary in a circuit around you, like the sun is in a circuit around you, because everything's in a circuit around you, because you are the center of your Father's eye. You are the center of attention. You are the Truman Show. Believe that. Believe that. You are it. You are everything. Whilst the other stands near the moon in order to warm the world from the cold of the moon, because it has a different light. Moses went to the 5th heaven. All right, we're on number 5. So this is going up on a Thursday. All right. Moses went to the 5th heaven, and he saw their troops and angels, half of fire, half of snow, and the snow is above the fire without extinguishing it. For God makes peace between them, as it is said, he maketh peace in high places. Job. And all praised the Almighty. And Moses asked Metatron, what are these doing? And he said, since the day God created them, are they so? Moses asked, what is their name? And he answered, their name is Erelim, who are called Ishim. So these are specifically called Ishim, as it is said unto you, O Ishim, men I call. Proverbs, I call you Ishim. So this is the knowledge they had of the higher heavens. Again, if you're on a ball, where's up? Where's the higher heavens? Which way are they going if you are spinning on a ball? Which way did they go out of the ball? You're not on a ball, so they didn't ever leave the ball. They just went into higher dimensions, higher vibrations above the rakwa, above the beat out firmament that was spread. Shamayim, like a tent. Your scriptures say like a tent for you to dwell in. And you can't go Google a tent and understand that that is very similar to what you're living in, a tent. And above your tent are higher physical, energetic vibrations. And these are the higher heavens we're going up into, because up is the same for everybody on a flat plane, not spinning on a ball. Wake up. Come on. We got to catch up. Let's go. And I mean that out of love. Like, we all got to catch up, because there's a lot more going on than whether you're spinning or not. At some point, you got to stop spinning and plant your feet in the firm, fixed, and immovable earth and wake her up, and you wake up together. This is all very important to be. Understand your orientation is very important to waking up. When you stop spinning, it helps you. Your energy increases. You can activate because you're not spinning anymore. How can you ever have a still moment in life if you think you're spinning on a ball at 1,100 miles per hour for the rest of your life till you're 80, 90 years old and you die still spinning? You still spinning? Moses went up to the 6th heaven. All right. So now we're on a Friday. Uh-oh. Moses, he goes to the 6th heaven, which correlates with Friday. There he saw an angel whose length was 500 years' journey. His name was X, and he was holy of hell, ice, and by him stood thousands of myriads of angels without number, and all sung praises to the one who said, and the world was created. And it is said, the heaven proclaimed the glory of God. Moses asked Metatron, Enoch, who are these? And he answered, these are the Erin Kadishim, the holy watchers. Daniel 10:14. Went up to the seventh heaven. Then Moses went up to the seventh heaven. Okay, so if the sixth heaven is Friday, the seventh heaven is Shabbat. Right. So you see, when you keep your Shabbat, you are now vibrating in the seventh heaven. You're now vibrating in the throne of the Creator, and here's your evidence. We already said it. We already kicked this. But now you see it applied. And now you see where the information is hidden in the journey of Royal Asiatic Society of Great Britain and Ireland, called the Gedulath Mosheh. Gedulath, Gedulath Mosheh. So Moses went up to the seventh heaven on the Shabbat. So he was already in the sixth heaven. So the Shabbat is, exiting the sixth, going into the seventh. This is the Shabbat. So this is the actual manifestation of it. Moses went up to the seventh heaven, and he saw an angel holy of fire. Again, which heaven, you got to choose up. When I say choose up, when we say choose up, choose up. Choose your vibration. If you're a Christian and you're worshiping on Sunday, you're worshiping the first heaven. If you're worshiping on the seventh day of the week, you're worshiping on the throne in the seventh heaven. So that's the vibration when you're in church singing and you're like, oh, praise, praise. You're calling on the energies of the first heaven. This is a frequency war. This is a battle. You're losing. You're taking L's every week. Now turn your energy into the seventh heaven simply by making that correction. And praise the Creator only. Hijack free. And activate. Moses went up to the seventh heaven and he saw an angel holy of fire. Two angels whose name were X were fastened with two chains of red and dark fire, and each of them had the length of 500 parasangs. Gotta be huge. Moses asked Metatron, who are these? And he answered, these are wrath and anger, and God created them during the sixth day of creation that they should fulfill his will. So you already know he's going to have to get vengeance. This is what our enemy has to be concerned about. These angels called wrath and anger. Moses replied, I am afraid of these angels, and I cannot look at them. Man. Thereupon Metatron embraced Moses, placed him in his bosom, and said, O Moses, beloved of God, be not afraid, frightened, nor dread thou aught. And Moses was immediately calm. And after this, Moses saw another angel whose countenance was totally different from those of the other angels, for he was ugly, and his height was 540 years' journey. 540 exactly. And he was girded 40 times around his waist, from the sole of his feet unto his head, and he was full of fiery eyes. And whosoever looked at him fell down in dread. And Moses asked Metatron, who is this? And he answered, this is the angel of death, who takes the souls of men. And he asked him, where is he now going? And Metatron answered, he goes to the soul of Job, the pious. And Moses said before God, may it be thy will, O Lord, my God, and God of my fathers, that thou shouldst not deliver me into the hands of this angel. Then saw he angels standing before God, each of them having 6 wings, with twain wings with thy covered their face. With 2 wings they covered their face, so they might not look upon Shekinah, the dwelling of Heah. With the other 2 wings, they covered their feet, for they have the feet of a calf. And with the other 2 wings, they fly and praise Heah. The length of each wing is 500 years' journey. Each wing is 500 years' journey. And the width from one end of the world to the other. How do you have that on the ball? Are you going to split the ball in half, or are we talking about the actual ends of the earth? All right. And Moses asked, who are these? And Metatron answered, These are the holy creatures. Our sages tell that in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, the impious said, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. This Holy Spirit came forth and said, O impious man, how many are the days of the years of thy life? 70, or even by reason of strength, 80 years? Are we talking about 80? I don't know, we're talking about hundreds? Man, all right. And the distance from earth to heaven alone is 500 years. The thickness of the heaven, again, 500 years. And the heaven, Rakia, to the heaven, Shehakim, 500 years. And its thickness, 500 years. And from Shehakim to Zebul, again, 500 years. And its thickness, 500 years. And from Zebul to Meon, 500 years. Man, so this is all you got to get through if you're talking about being NASA. NASA wants to go places. You got to get through all this, NASA. And its thickness, 500 years. And from Shahim to Zebul, 500 years. And to Meow, all right, where we at? And its thickness, 500 years. And from Meon to Arabah, 500 years. And its thickness, 500 years. And the feet of the holy creatures are equal to the whole. And their ankles are equal to the whole. And the wings of the creatures are like the whole. And their necks are like the whole. And their heads like the whole, and their horns like unto the whole. And upon them is the throne of glory, which is equal to the whole. So the throne is upon them. It is like the terrible ice, Ezekiel. And there sits the King of kings, the holy, blessed be he, exalted and high. And thou sayest, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So that's just like, damn, Nebuchadnezzar, you want to ascend above the clouds. NASA wants to go above the clouds too. They want to be like the Most High. So this is not just to Nebuchadnezzar. This is to these current invaders and people right now saying they want to be like the Most High. They don't even understand what they're talking about. How high you want to go? Woe unto thee, O impious man, and woe unto thy soul, for thou shalt be brought down to the utmost parts of the pit. Isaiah, to the 7 regions of hell, to be punished forever and ever. All right, just a little bit more before we make our dismount. And after that, Moses saw an angel in heaven called Arabah, the 7th heaven, and this angel was teaching the souls which were created by God at the time of the creation, and have been placed in paradise. The name of the angel was X. He teaches them in 70 languages in the college on high. And they answer, thus is the law of Moses given by tradition from Mount Sinai, as it is said, Dinah was set, and the books were opened, Daniel. And Dinah is none other than this angel, who is the guardian angel of law and of wisdom. He has also another name. They call him Jephiah, for the name of the guardian angel of the law is Ephiel. From the Zohar, our Simeon, son of Johai, said, at that time, when Moses went up into the heaven, an angel sat before him and taught him 370 mysteries of the law. Moses then said to God, I will not depart from here until thou wilt give me good gifts. Now check this out. Moses had to learn, when he went up from Mount Sinai, up 730 mysteries of the law. And we think we know the law. When the scriptures say that Moses buried near Mount Nebo, his body was left, his life force was left unabated. Do you see why you might need to reconnect to that life force? Because there are quite the mysteries. 370 mysteries of the law. But the Christian says your law is done away with. All 370 mysteries of it. It's all about JC now. Who himself said, I did not come to destroy the law. But somehow we're worshiping on the first heaven, the Sunday. Somebody destroyed the law. I will not depart from here until thou wilt give me good gifts. God answered, Moses, my servant, faithful in my house. I will give thee my law. wherein are good gifts, as it is written, for I give thee a good gift, Proverbs. Therein are also the commandments, positive and negative, and not, so the balance, we're talking about, you know what I'm saying, not negative like we're thinking negative, we're talking about balance. And not only this, I grant thee, but also that the law shall be recorded in thy name, as it is written, remember ye the law of Moses my servant. So why do we call it the law of Moses in Malachi? Because it's in his name. That is the gift to Moshe. Whence do we know that Moses did actually ascend 7 heavens, Shabbat? We learn it from the verse, and Moses ascended to God. It is further written, God went up amidst the sound of trumpets. Moses is therefore called Elohim, like unto his master, for it is said. So Moses is an Elohim. See, I have made thee as Elohim unto Pharaoh. Therefore it is written, like an apple tree in the wood is my beloved among the sons. Like an apple tree. Imagine the Most High describing you like an apple tree in the wood, his beloved among all nations. This is Moses, master of the prophets and servant of God. He is like an apple in odor and taste. Man, that's a beautiful thing. At that time, a Bathkal came forth from underneath the throne of glory and said, Moses, my servant, art thou afraid of them? It is written, a wise man scaleth the city of the mighty and bringeth down the strength of the confidence thereof. A wise man scaleth the city of the mighty. Man, when you got wisdom, you can scale the city of that so-called mighty whatever and hijack and tear it down. Bring it down. The strengths of the confidence thereof. Break the confidence of these so-called scholars, or break the confidence of these so-called systems. Strength means the law, as it is said. God will give strength to his people. You understand the law, especially the 370 mysteries of it. Oh boy, knowledge is power. That's your strength. God said then to Moses, Moses, my servant, thou camest up here and hast been worthy of the privilege of seeing all with thy earthly power, and I have made thee ascend 7 heavens, and have shown thee my treasure, and have given thee my law. Now thou shalt be worthy of seeing the 2 parks I have created in the world, one for the righteous and one for the sinners, paradise and hell. And at that time, at that hour, God sent Gabriel and said unto him, go with my beloved servant Moses and show him hell. And Moses said to him, I cannot enter hell, that blazing fire. He said to him, Moses, there is a fire which burns more than all. He said, Moses, there is a fire which burns more than all the 7 hells. And yet when thou wilt tread it with thy feet, it shall not burn thee. At an hour when Moses entered hell, the fire of hell withdrew for 5 parasangs. So the fire withdrew from Moses, his vibration. The master of hell said to him, who art thou? He said, man, who are you, man, with this vibration? He answered, I am the son of Amram. The Lord of hell answered, not here is thy place. Man, this ain't for you, man. With this vibration you got, this ain't for you. And Moses said, I came to see the powerful works of God, blessed be he. And God said to the Lord of hell, go and show him how men are in hell. Immediately he went with Moses like a pupil before his master and entered hell together with him. Moses saw there men tortured by the angels of destruction. Some of the sinners were hanged by the eyelids, some by the ears, some by the hands, others by the tongues, and cried bitterly. And they saw women hanging by their hair and by their breasts, and in such like ways all were hanging by chains of fire. And Moses asked the Lord of hell and said, why are these hanging by their eyes and tongues, and are fearfully tortured and so punished? And the master of hell answered, because they looked with an evil eye at fair women, and at married women, and at the money of their friends and neighbors, and gave false witness against their neighbors. Man, treaties against their brothers. Also saw he in hell men hanging by their sexual organs, and their hands were tied. And he said, why are these hangs? And the Lord said, because they committed adultery, they stole and killed and murdered. And he saw others hanging by their ears and their tongues. And he said, Why are these hanging by their ears and tongues? And he answered, because they neglected the study of the law, and talked slander and vain words and empty words. The women are hanging by their hair and breasts because they used to uncover their breasts and their hair before the young men and desired them, and came thus into sin. Hell cried then with a bitter and loud voice, and said to the master of hell, give me the sinners, that I may destroy them. For hell is always hungry and never satisfied, and crieth always for the sinners to devour them, but hath no power over the righteous. When you get your law back, your righteousness, these things don't have power over you. You have your shield again. Moses went further and saw two sinners hanging by their feet and with their hands downward, and they cried for reasons of torture in hell, and their bodies were covered with black worms, each worm 5 parasangs long. And these sinners cried and lamented, saying, woe unto us for the terrible punishment of hell. Would we could die. Man, they want to die, but they cannot die. As it is said, they long for death, but death cometh not. Moses asked the master of hell, what acts have these committed? And he answered, these are those who swore falsely and profaned the Sabbath, your vibration, and despised the learning, and persecuted the orphans, and gave bad names to their neighbors, and bare false witness. Therefore hath God delivered them to these worms to take vengeance on the sinners. And Moses asked, what is the name of this place? And he answered, Aluka. And it is said, Aluka has 2 daughters. Moses went there to another place. There the sinners were lying on their faces, and he saw 2,000 scorpions swarming over them and stinging them and torturing them. And the sinners cried bitterly. Each scorpion 70,000 moths, has 70,000 moths, and each moth 70,000 stings, and each sting 70,000 vesicles filled with poison and venom. And with these are the sinners imbued, and thus are they tortured, and their eyes are sunk in their sockets for fear and dread, and their cry, woe unto us for our sins and for the judgment, the day of judgment. And Moses asked, what have these committed? And he answered, these have wasted the money of others. They have taken bribery, elevated themselves above others. They have put their neighbors publicly to shame. They have delivered up their brother Israelite to the Gentile. Whoa, treaties. They have delivered their brother Israelite to the Gentile. They denied the oral law and maintained that God did not create the world. Man, therefore God has handed them over to the scorpions to be avenged on them. He saw there another place where the sinners stood upon their knees. The name of the place is Tithayavan, Mary Clay. Angels of destruction tied them with chains of iron and lashed them with fiery whips. And they take fiery stones and break with them the teeth of the sinners from morning unto evening. And during the night they prolong their teeth again to the length of the parasangs, in order to break them anew next morning. As it is said, thou hast broken teeth of the wicked. And the sinners cried, woe unto us, but nobody takes pity on them. Moses asked the master of hell, what have these committed? He answered, they ate all kinds of forbidden fruits and gave them to Israelites to eat. They were usurers, apostates, and blasphemies. They wrote the ineffable name of God for Gentiles. They had false weights. They stole money and ate on the first day of Kippur. For whoever eats blood or reptiles or worms and does not keep away from them is punished by being cut off. These are forever punished in hell, and therefore God had delivered them to the angels of destruction to chastise them. He saw there further how they punished the wicked with fire and snow and tortured them terribly. The Lord of hell said then to Moses, come and see how the wicked are punished in hell with fire. And Moses answered, I dread to go. But the Lord of hell answered, go and dread not, as it is said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And Moses stood up to go, and he saw the Shekinah moving before him, so that he should not be in dread of the angels of destruction. Each of these is full of eyes and hath fiery chains in his hands, and his length is 500 years' journey. Moses went, and he saw how the wicked were punished by fire, being half in fire and half in snow, with worms crawling up and down their bodies, and a fiery collar round their necks, and having no rest except on Sabbath days and festival days. Man, all the other days they are tortured in hell. So they even get to rest on the Sabbath in hell from torture. That's how important the Sabbath is. All the other days they are tortured in hell. Of these speaks the verse, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of men that have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched. And Moses asked the angels of hell, what have these committed? And the angels answered, this is the punishment for those who have committed adultery, sodomy, idolatry, the murder, and who have cursed their parents. Therefore have God delivered them to the angels of destruction to be avenged, to avenge them. And Moses asked, what is the name of this place? And he answered, the name of it is Abaddon, Apollyon Abaddon. This is the Abaddon that they have based their revelations off of. So a lot of this stuff was based on this other stuff, hijacked from these texts that were in Hebrew. Thereupon Moses went up to heaven and said, may it be thy will, O Lord my God, and God of my fathers, that thou mightest save me and my people Israel from those places which I have seen in hell. And God said unto Moses, Moses my servant, I have created two parks, paradise and hell. Whosoever committed evil deeds go down to hell, and whosoever good deeds cometh into paradise. As it is written, I the Lord search the heart and try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. Then Moses lifted his eyes, and behold, the angel Gabriel, and he fell down and bowed himself before him. And the angel said, hast thou seen hell? And he answered, yea. And the angel said, come then, I will show you paradise by the will of God. So Moses went with him to paradise. When they came there, the angel said, thy time is not yet arrived to leave this world. Moses answered, I came to see the mighty deeds of God and the reward of the pious in paradise. What is their condition there? The angels began to praise Moses and said, hail, O Moses, servant of the Lord. Hail, O Moses, born of woman, who hath been found worthy to ascend 7 heavens. Hail the nation to whom such belongs. This is how you're being beloved, man, because of your ancestors, because of your creator that have paved the way for you. Imagine them yelling at you like that, man. The servant of the Lord, born of a woman. Man, we understand how y'all been tried and tested, but you still ascended 7 heavens, man. When Moses went into paradise, he saw an angel sitting under the tree. Moses asked the angel Gabriel, who is this angel? He answered, this is the Lord guardian of paradise, and his name is X. This angel then asked Moses, who art thou? He said, I am the son of Ame'rican. And he said to him, why didst thou come hither? And Moses answered, to see the reward of the pious in paradise have I come hither. The angel took Moses by the hand and went both together. Moses looked up and saw 70 thrones fixed, one next to another, all made of precious stone and emerald, sapphire, diamond, precious pearls. And at the foot of each was gold and fine gold, and each throne stood 70 angels. Amongst the throne was one gathered, one greater than the other, and 20 of the ministering angels kept ward thereover. Moses inquired of the angel and said, who is that throne? So he looked at a throne. He said, who's that throne? He said, it is the throne of Abraham, the patriarch. Therefore Moses went immediately up to Abraham. He said, what? Abraham? He went to Abraham. Abraham asked, who art thou? He said, I am son of Ame'rican. And Abraham asked, is perchance already thy time come to leave the world? Moses answered, my time is not yet come, but with the permission of God I come to see the reward of the pious. Abraham then said, praise ye the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Then Moses went to the throne of Isaac, and he spake with him in a similar matter. And Moses answered in like wise. Then asked Moses, the guardian angel of paradise, what is the length and width of paradise? The angel answered, there is none who can measure it. No angel or seraph can ever know the length and width of paradise, for it is unlimited and boundless and immeasurable. The angels guard only the thrones, and these are unlike to one another, for some of them are silver, others are gold, others are bdellium, and others are ruby, topaz, carbuncle, and other emeralds, sapphire, diamonds, and other precious stones and pearls, and other rubies and carbuncles. Moses asked the angel, for whom is the throne of pearls? He answered, it is for the scholars who study the law day and night for the sake of heaven, and those of the precious stones for the pious men, and those of rubies for the just, and those of gold for the men who repent. And the greatest throne is for thy forefather Abraham, and the other thrones are for Isaac and Jacob, and for the prophets of the right and righteous, and holy and wise and pious men, each after his worth and position, and the good works he hath performed in the world. And Moses then said to the angel, for whom is that throne of copper? And he said, for the wicked man whose son is pious, or whose son is righteous, because through the merits of his son he obtained a portion of heavenly bliss, as thou seest in the case of Terah, who hath worshipped all the idols in the world, but who through the merits of his son Abraham obtained that throne of copper, as it is said, thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thus announcing to him, Abraham, that God would give his father also a place in paradise. And we're going to dismount right there. But how interesting is that? That Abraham's dad, even with his idols, was given a place because of the deeds of his son. Wow. You know what I mean? So we got these heavens, we got these vibrations, we got these things going on. And which way is up? You know, which day of the week are you giving your energy? Each one correlates with a frequency. What frequency are you on? Catrice is rocking the drop. We know what frequency Catrice is on. Catrice Green got the drop. Love to Catrice, love to everybody. You know what I'm saying? We are dismounting here. I think we might have 1 or 2 minutes left before we get cut off, man. So, you know, this is just a little bit of love and catching up. We got a lot to drop, a lot of digging to do. I mean, if we're going to do a dismount, I think this is how we do it, man, with this queen, this sister, M.A. True, continuation of reading vibration from the Kabbalion, chapter 9. Love to M.A. Truth, love to you. Stay up, suit up, choose up.
I'm back on this vibration kick, which I never really got off of.
Come on.
Kingdrop has brought some spectacular information with his post recently. One in particular, Dr. Yafa Bey, speaking about language, words, their vibrations, what they really mean, and all of it's important. So we're back on the Kabbalion. This is chapter 9, and as it says in the beginning, if we go back to that, it says, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, the Kabbalion. So I'm going to just read a couple of paragraphs because this stuff is long and I don't have that great attention span at this time. It says, and so it is with the various forms of energy. Science teaches that light, heat, magnetism, and electricity are but forms of vibratory motion, connected in some way with and probably emanating from the ether. Science does not as yet attempt to explain the nature of the phenomena known as cohesion, which is the principle of molecular attraction, nor chemical affinity, which is the principle of atomic attraction, nor gravitation, the greatest mystery of the three, which is the principle of attraction by which every particle or mass of matter is bound to every other particle or mass. These three forms of energy are not as yet understood by science. Yes? No, well, European science wouldn't understand that anyway. Our science would.
Bang.
These three forms of energy are not yet understood by science, yet the writers incline to the opinion that these two also are manifestations of some form of vibratory energy, a fact which the Hermeticists have held and taught for ages past. The universal ether, which is postulated by science without its nature being understood clearly, is held by the Hermeticists to be but a higher manifestation of that which is erroneously called matter. That is to say, matter at a higher degree of vibration. And and is called by them the ethereal substance. The Hermeticists teach that this ethereal substance is of extreme tenuity and elasticity and pervades universal space, serving as a medium of transmission of waves of vibratory energy, such as heat, light, electricity, magnetism, etc. The teachings are that the ethereal substance is a connecting link between the forms of vibratory energy known as matter on the one hand and energy or force on the other, and also that it manifests a degree of vibration and rate mode entirely its own. Scientists have offered the illustration of a rapidly moving wheel, top, or cylinder to show the effects of increasing rates of vibration. The illustration supposes a wheel, top, or revolving cylinder running at a low rate of speed. We will call this revolving thing the object in following out the illustration. Let us suppose, I'm trying to get this thing where you guys can see it, but that's all right. I'm reading it anyway.
Wonderful job, sister. Wonderful job.
Where was I?
Let go.
Let us suppose the object moving slowly. It may be seen readily, but no sound of its movement reaches the ear. The speed is gradually increased. In a few moments, its movement becomes so rapid that a deep growl or low note may be heard. Then, as the rate is increased, the note rises one in the musical scale. Then, the motion being still further increased, the next highest note is distinguished. Then, on another, all the notes of the musical scale appear, rising higher and higher as the motion is increased. And finally, when the motions have reached a certain rate, the final note perceptible to human ears is reached, and the shrill, piercing shriek dies away. A silence follows. No sound is heard from the revolving object, the rate of motion being so high that the human ear cannot register the vibrations. Then comes the perception of rising degrees of heat. Then, after quite a time, the eye catches a glimpse of the object, becoming a dull, dark, reddish color. As the rate increases, the red becomes brighter. Then as the speed increases, the red melts into an orange. Then the orange melts into a yellow. Then follow successively the shades of green, blue, indigo, and finally violet. As the rate of speed increases. Then the violet shades away, and all color disappears, the human eye not being able to register them, but they are invisible rays emanating from the revolving object, the rays that are used in photographing and other subtle rays of light. Then begin to manifest the peculiar rays known as the X-rays, etc. As the constitution of the object changes, elasticity, magnetism are emitted when the appropriate rate of vibration is attained.
Wow.
Essentially, what this is saying is simply that, hey, y'all, everything moves, everything vibrates. Nothing we doing new under the sun, right? Okay, I see that I'm gonna have an issue with this phone. I'm gonna get a camera one day, guys, but girlfriend here on Social Security. What can I say? Let me play this for you. I hope this picks up.
Love to the sister. M.A. True. Dropping it.
Not my taste in music, though. But it'll show you. Hey, brothers, y'all need to do this so you can see the difference in your voices and how it vibrates and what it does. Check it out.
That'll be dope.
I keep doing that.
Fair use, educational purposes only. Yeah, man. I gotta speak on that thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna put a link to this and another video that shows. Check this out. What vibration is that? Is that 432? Don't know.
Look, a hijack. It's a hijack frequency.
Can check that out. Like I said, I'll put a link to it. But my point simply is what's already been established and what Kingdrop and others are, are speaking to. Voice. Our voices vibrate. The words that we speak vibrate. They create energy. They create matter. They make things happen. So in saying that, I'm simply saying you need to watch what you're saying. Okay? Overstand the words that you use and how they affect those around you, how they affect you. Talk to you later. It's M.A. Truth. Holla.
And that's how we do it, man. Stay up, suit up, choose up. Love to M.A. Truth. Love to you.